Hey there, it's Lance.
And I'm Jeremy.
And we are Hard to Master, and today we're taking a look at
Horizon Zero Dawn, the board game, and a couple expansions, as you can see by the boxes. So I think it's best if we maybe move the boxes and then we can bring them back out. But we'll keep the miniatures on the board so that you can see as we talk. This is the second time we're going to film this because we had some technical difficulties. So as we go over this, we'll start with the core game, as you can see. We're not going to give you a full rules video or how to play. Those are out there. What we do want to, I thought you were going to put it on that side.
Nah.
What we do want to talk to you about, though, are our thoughts, some different things about the game, and just a generalization of the game itself, and make it, give you the information to see if this is a game you might actually like. If you like the video game, I think you would like this board game. Lance has not played the video game, but I remember when it was first announced, and I was like, mechanical dinosaur-like beings that you knock pieces off. I mean, it just sounded totally awesome. So getting the chance, because Steamforged has sent this to us to review. As you can see, I've painted everything I have except for another one I just got at Gen Con, which if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen. But let's get into it. So with the core game of Horizon Zero Dawn, this is a semi-cooperative game. You can play cooperative, but I will tell you, most of the time you hear semi-cooperative, and I feel like this one really hits it strong and does an amazing job. Not that co-op is bad. I do think facing some of the expansions and bigger monsters, as we'll talk about later, you will want to go co-op, because otherwise it will be super tough. But with the base game and just the overall original idea behind the game, semi-co-op works. You'll be a hunter. As you can see, we got Alloy here. So we have our hunter figures, and let's get them there where you can kind of see them. Like I said, painted and based. First time basing, so that was cool to do, and a great game to work on that with. But you're a hunter, and so is everybody else. And you're going to have your basically starting trait. You're going to have a tech tree, which allows you to upgrade your character as you go, gain maybe upgraded cards into your deck, allow you to have extra cards in your deck, or you could upgrade and get more traits. So if you don't want, you have to choose at times, do I want to add these more powerful cards to my deck, or would I rather take the trait, which is a cool trade-off.
Yeah.
It's just like in the game when you're upgrading your abilities, because you have skill points. Now I have to choose, do I want to gain this ability, or do I want to gain this? Mm-hmm. And so that is one cool thing about the game. But semi-cooperative, we're all going to be hunting these monsters that are on the board before they exit the board, because they will have their normal patrol routes. And if you do not take care of them before they move off, because as long as they're not alerted, they're going to continue on that path, and you want to be strategic about when you engage and alert, because otherwise you can be overwhelmed by machines attacking you, just like in the game. You've got to run and hide and get back into it. But if they get off the board, and too many get off the board, you're not going to complete that mission, because you have to take out so many points worth of machines. I'm going to say monsters, that means machines. But these machines, each one's going to have a different point value when you take it off the board. And based on how many players you have, you're going to try and reach this point total. That allows you to finish the first mission of the overall campaign. Because it's generally, you can play as a one-off, where you're just hunting those monsters and seeing who's the leader at the end. Or you can play a campaign, where you're playing 4 missions, and then you have like a ending boss mission that you're doing. In the base game, you're going to have these characters, the Sawtooths. They will be the ones that you will face at the end. So if you just get a base set, you're going to be facing them at the end. But if you get a big boss set, as we said, we'll talk about them, you will have these, and there are other smaller, there are other expansions that give you more of the smaller machines and more characters to use. And be on the lookout, because I have painted them, but not gotten a chance to try them. And so later, as we go, I'll give kind of what expansions I have. I'm planning on doing like a this is of these 5, this is how I would rank each one, and maybe a little blurb about why. And so there may be some revisiting, but you're going to face them at the end. Now, each mission that you attempt is going to be about 45 to usually 45 to 90 minutes. 90 is going to be when you're facing tougher monster or machines, and you are trying to get that. It can also change probably with player count, although you're still, I mean, if it's just solo or 2 players, you have less people to think about, but you're still doing about the same amount of actions, and they're still engaging. The amount of hit points is not that much different, especially with these big guys. It goes from like 60 to I think 50. So ultimately, are you going to be the leader, or are you going to not?
Are you going
to be 1 or 2 glory points? Because when you take out a monster, you gain salvage, and you can use that salvage to buy things at the merchant, and that will go into your deck, or it could upgrade your different weapons or your armor, which is your weave. So, do I take out these monsters and get salvage, and some, like completing all the monsters on the board will get you basically annihilated that board, so you get additional salvage, but you're also trying to get glory points, and some of these monsters or machines will get you glory points as you go. And so at the end of each round, you're going to see who had the most glory points, and they're going to get different tokens. And these fame-like tokens, the name of it slipping my mind right now, but these tokens, half sun, full sun, and blazing sun. These tokens are going to dictate at the very end of the game, or that mission, if you're just playing one mission, who's the actual leader. Whoever had the most glory is going to get the blazing sun, unless there's ties. Then you go down a step, and then so on down the line based on glory.
And there are catch-up mechanics built into the game in between each mission. The person who's in last place, who had the least amount of glory, they get a bonus that they get to choose from a set of cards, and that's an event deck. And that event only applies to them. And it may be something that can be a pretty good benefit to them that they get to use in the next mission, and they can plan their strategy out around that. Other players, they don't get any benefit from that, so it's a really nice catch-up mechanic, so that person who's in last still feels like, well, now I've got a chance to get back into the fight the next mission.
And one thing I do want to say is, when you look at this game, and we showed you all the boxes, and if we grab the core box out here, and you're probably thinking, well, there's like 12 boxes you can get for this game. If you go to Steamforged website, or maybe you kickstarted it, there's a plethora of different machines, and even from the Frozen Wilds expansion, and things that you're going to see that you could get. And you're probably thinking, well, is a base game worth it? And I think it is, because you're going to have many different miniatures that are different machines you're going to face. You start with 4 heroes. So this box is not super expensive, and it gives you what you need. If you like the video game, I think it would be worth it for you to have this. Now, I will say, if you like the video game, at least quite a bit, I think you will want to be getting these big box expansions. Now, whether it's this one or that one, I really want a Deathbringer, and I'm waiting until I can get a Deathbringer to paint and try it out. And I'm hoping I can get that from Steamforged soon enough that I can maybe put it on my this is my expansion ranking, because it also introduces the Corruptors.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool if you know what I'm talking about from the video game.
And speaking as somebody who is only looking at this as a board game, and I don't know the source material, never having played the video game before, going back to what Jeremy said about the base game, I do think that most people who are just board gamers, or even if you have played the video game, you may still feel this way, that the base game is just going to whet your appetite and not be enough for you to want to just walk away from just the base game. I think you will probably want to get at least one expansion, at least maybe one of the big baddies, because that's going to give you the fuller experience. One of my cons with the game is that you don't get the full use out of some of the characters, some of the heroes, because some of their benefits, some of their player abilities don't actually come into effect until you start adding in some of the expansions, some of the other bosses. One in particular, I play with the character who he was impervious against fire. Well, fire never happens in the base game. It's only in one of the expansions that
you can inflict fire.
You can,
but taking full advantage of that ability is going to be less than just adding fire. Because when you add fire to a machine at the end of that turn, it's going to lose a health.
Right.
And so, yes, you still use the concepts of inflicting you're inflicting these
player abilities and whatnot.
The word's slipping me, but
you just don't get the full effect as you would if you had.
And another one is there is the Rattler, which is an additional weapon, because you're gonna have a left-handed weapon, you're gonna have a right-handed weapon, and you're gonna have your armor or weave underneath on the bottom. But the Rattler can actually be a weapon that can go on top of your character card, which is special. The thing is the ammo cards for that are in another expansion because that symbol. Now, you can still use it. It's not like you can't use this weapon. It's just you would gain an additional benefit from it if you had another expansion. So you get to use a weapon because you can choose to randomly take a card from the top of your deck, which is your health and the cards that you use to do actions, and you can discard that card instead of playing an ammo card from your hand to use that weapon. So still very usable, and it's not that bad to necessarily, maybe you want all your cards for later or for some, to discard later when you get attacked. So you can just take that one. It is a randomness of what cards you're getting rid of versus using ammo that particularly deals with that weapon.
Yeah.
It's a minor thing. Like I said, you may see a minor icon here or there that's not necessarily gone in depth, or you may have to look up on BGG, or they do have a Facebook forum, Facebook group that I'm in that you can ask questions and people can answer. And they're pretty quick, because even when we were playing a game, there was a symbol that I call the VHS, looked like a VHS machine, and guess what? Or the VCR, sorry. It looks like a VHS or a VCR, and not immediately, but within maybe 20, 30 minutes, I had an answer while we were doing the game.
Right.
Now, we know it for next time and so on.
I think, if you're a completionist and you're somebody who wants to get everything there is for this, you're going to have a really great time with this. This is going to be something that
I will say I'm usually a completionist, and this is one that I just know I would not have room for everything. I feel like
there is a lot with this game.
The great thing about it is I have learned the base, so I do plan at some point to be forced to display these, which is really cool. I've actually started to display some of these and to bring them for this review. I had to find them, take them apart, put them back in the box. But being able to display them, putting the cards, and we'll talk about more about what's in these expansions, but you could essentially find a way to make it work with displaying if you paint it. If not, you're probably going to have a lot of boxes if you're a full completionist. But this, for me, felt like one that I don't want everyone, which usually I do. Like Bloodborne, I want it all, had to have it all. And this one, it takes up, you saw the boxes. They take up so much space, and they have to.
Look at this
guy. They have
right
to fit everything. And I love what it is. I just don't think I can keep a box for every one of them. So displaying, I think I can still keep about 3 to 5 different expansions.
This guy needs a whole table to himself.
Maybe even 6 or 7, but 12. There's, I think, 12 boxes. And in the different expansions, like we said, there are big box expansions where you have one big monster. You're going to have a full board, not the tiles. Like in the core game, you got several tiles that you're going to place based on the cards for the missions. You have a big stack of cards. They're all good quality. It's not thin cards. I believe they're all linen finish, decent. I don't know all the terminology with cards, but I believe they're linen finish and a great thickness. Custom dice, punch board tokens that are at least probably 2 millimeter with the linen finish. So like I said, production quality is there. You're getting the stuff in the box, but then when you get to the individual expansions, like the Thunderjaw, you're going to have a separate board that's going to come out. So don't necessarily need the tiles when you're facing him or it. You're going to have a big 4-fold board, I believe, with spaces already on there. It tells you where to set things up, just like the tiles would. You're going to have cards that tell you how to hit the machines. You're going to have a different set for different missions you can do leading up to this big monster. You're going to have separate pokers, and they're poker-sized cards, so easy to find sleeves for. But you're going to have ones that tell you. And with the big monsters, or machines, sorry, the big machines, and even with the Sawtooth, they're going to have at least in the Shell Walkers, you're going to have a different deck of cards that monster is going to be programmed to attack you with, and you're going to flip over a card.
Yeah.
And so those are in there as well. So you have the components you need, and with this one, you actually do have an item that you can get from it, because as you knock off his guns or his disc launcher, you can pick that up and use it against him. So,
which that's really cool.
You have more than just a miniature. You do have a board, and the boards look different. Like his has water spaces. Water spaces keep you from being able to do things. They stop your movement and keep you from attacking unless you are moving out whenever you are doing a melee attack. With the Stormbird, same thing. It's going to have a board, and that board has a little bit darker dirt, has the bright green grass from the different areas in the game. And you'll have a board. You'll have cards that tell you how to attack this machine. You'll have cards that tell you how it attacks, and you'll have those mission cards. So everyone's kind of set up that way, but I really like, I think, having... so what I have the core game. I was sent the core game. I was sent the Thunderjaw. They were willing to send me more to paint and post and do reviews. And so I'm appreciative of what they sent, because I have this right here, but I also have the Sacred Lands expansion, which adds more smaller machines, adds a couple more heroes that you can choose from, so you have more variation in what you're doing. You have Bellowbacks and Snapmaws and all these other machines that you can do. So what I have created, and it's not, I'm sure other people have too, but I have a save sheet, because like I've told you in Bloodborne, which was my game of last year, because I love the video game and it's painting and everything, and this is high up there even though it's a little bit older, is I've created a save sheet where you just keep everything, and you don't have to have this save sheet really. You can keep your cards there, but in case that stack fell over, it's all there together, so it's easy to set up. And I can know which mission I have, take everything that's still in play to continue on, keep that all together, put the stuff you won't need anymore, and put it to the side. And now I have set up to the next time I can break it out. We've played 3 rounds, 3 missions. We have 2 more, including boss, and break that back out. But I also like what I call boss mode. And I like to take a fully upgraded character. Maybe you finish a campaign and you keep that character all together in that saved order. Now I break out one of the big baddies like I'm at the boss mode in the game.
Yeah.
And so I don't have to worry about upgrading and going to the merchant and getting all this extra stuff out. I'm satisfied with the character I've leveled up. I'm max level 50 or whatever. And now we're taking on a big boss. And so I really like that. And what I like about the Sacred Lands is now I have 2 new characters. I have more smaller machines. I can set up a whole new, so I've actually reset everything. I can break that out with the core box, get that going as my missions. Once I get to where I've leveled that one up, I can attack the Rock Breaker, which is another expansion I have that's painted, but I haven't tested it to really talk too much about it. But I have the Rock Breaker, or I can break out the, I forgot that Fire Starter, I think, or something. I can't remember the name of the one I just picked up at Gen Con, but yeah. So boss mode is pretty sweet, I believe, and it definitely allows you to level up that character, which you love to do in a game, even in a campaign. Even like many of you might do in a Dungeons and Dragons or an RPG, you level up that character, you pick what you want at the merchant, you've set it up the way you want it. Now let's use this let's use it. I don't want to cuss on here, we're a friendly channel. But we use this, and now you're taking on the big baddie, and I think you want to do that co-op. I think semi-co-op would be really tough, because if you get knocked out too many times, I will tell you, this is the tougher one. Like I said, this is the Thunderjaw. If you played the game, first time you face him, it's like, uh-oh. And you die, or it's extremely tough. And so you have to go at it a few times. The Stormbird, I do like the Stormbird because he's aerial. He has cards for aerial, and then he has cards for when he's landed, which if you inflict a condition, that's what I was thinking of earlier. If you inflict a condition like fire, stun, or shock, or freezing, or ice, then he's gonna fall down, where you can get in there and melee and attack. So you have to balance that out. And if he was down this round or whatever, he's probably gonna go back up or try to evade you a little bit. So I did like playing the Stormbird, but I will tell you, it was much
easier.
It was quite a bit easier facing the Stormbird versus the Thunderjaw. Thunderjaw, he's attacking so many different people at once all the time, that you've got to get those disc launchers off quick. You want to tear them by not being able to fully take them out right away. Get over half, or at least half. Tear it, knock it off. The next person, get them off. Get as many components off of him as you can, or it as you can, and that will give you the chance. But we barely beat him in full co-op, which is not counting in traditional co-op. You get knocked out twice, the game's over. 2 faints. I think with this one, you need to play where, like in
forgiving mode.
If you want any chance, and like I said, we won on the last turn. So it wasn't like we annihilated this guy because we played with these rules. We fainted, I think, 3 times. Next time we faint, the game's over. And barely won it out with a true housed cooperative mode. So the game is challenging. You're getting wailed on. And guess what? In semi-co-op, someone will hit them and run away.
That's my favorite thing about this game.
That's your mechanic. My mechanic is, I'm here for the fight. And it's very tough, and I'm about to die. Let me heal myself.
I love semi-co-op in this game, in which usually I don't like semi-co-op.
Yeah, usually it's not my thing.
It's not something that I care for, but in this game, that's such a huge strategic point to play out.
It's so good in this one.
It's a hand management game with your cards, and it's a lot like Gloomhaven, that your cards are also your life points. And so you want to play them strategically and wise and ration them. But at the same time, there's this timing element of knowing when is the right time to go in and attack and then get out of there, so that you're not the person closest near to that thing that's going to retaliate and hit back at you. That it's going to be this guy over here.
Or 2 or 3 come at you because you're the closest.
And that's a really cool thing about this game that you don't really experience with a lot of other games that are like these kind of dudes on a map, exploration and taking out things that are on the board. You don't really have that as an aspect, that timing element where you're also you really want to work together, because you do want to clear everything off the map to advance, but you want to be the guy who does the most work and takes the least amount of damage so that you can keep doing a lot of hits.
I feel like that's in games, but usually it's so you get a card. You know what I mean? Like if you're the one that did it, then you get the card, and you're like, everybody else like, why'd you do that? You kind of screwed us a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you can be the person who gets to the chest first and gets the treasure out of the chest.
Yeah, you didn't need it. You have full health. Why'd you take it?
But in this game, it's such a vital part of it.
It means way more.
Yes.
And one thing is why is it still cooperative? Because if too many people faint too many times, the game's over.
Or if too many machines get off the map because you're taking too long, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is still very much cooperative. It's just you want to be sly about how much you do cooperate. And I love that about this game. So,
yeah.
Why don't we get into our thoughts on this and do some actual review of this game? For me, I do like what I've just mentioned about it with the semi-co-op. I also really enjoy the hand management with this game. Gloomhaven is probably my favorite dungeon crawler, and I love the mechanic of using your cards as your life points, your stamina, or whatever you want to call it. And that idea of, well, I really like this card and I want to play it, but at the same time, I don't want to, just waste my cards for frivolous purposes. I need to make sure it's really going to have an impact and it's really going to hit. So those really work well with me. The things that aren't so great for me, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot in the base. I shouldn't say a lot. There's some things in the base game that I don't feel like you get the full effect out of unless you have some of the other components into it. If you have those other components, great, no problem. If you don't, you kind of feel like, well, now I do have to get it. So you just know that going into it. It is a longer experience, like Jeremy mentioned, 45 minutes to 90 minutes for just one mission. If you're going to do the whole thing, that's going to be your only game of the night, more than likely.
And that's depending on how long you have. I mean, it's going to be a good probably four to five hours for all of it because of that.
So it just depends. If you're somebody who's okay with that, then no problems for you. But if you're somebody who maybe wants a shorter experience, I would highly encourage you doing like what Jeremy said, saving it in between missions, saving it for another night, or just doing that boss mode. That boss mode is really cool. So all that being said, this is a pretty great game for me. I really do enjoy it. I am going to give it a 7.5.
Okay. Well, like I said, I like the video game, so seeing it on the table with what I've already experienced and many of you have gets me excited. The game itself, like I said, semi-co-op plays very well here. If you like where you're moving on a map and attacking something and trying to take it out so you can get a reward of salvage or whatever else, so you can go to the merchant and upgrade. If you like upgrading characters, I feel like this is a really good game as far as upgrading your characters. As Lance said, there's an occasional card that you can get, or a card or ability you can get more from with an expansion, but like I said, usually you can still use it. It just magnifies it a hair if you have that. The fact that there are many different options to go with in this, I think is very good for you. If you get the base and you try a couple modes and the way that the programmed machines attack you and you like how everything is, you can get more, and most of it's available on their site. If not, I think even the exclusives are on their site where you can get them. So it's not like you just can't ever get them again. So I think that and knowing I can get more and I can try this one and that one, and having a save mode and a boss mode, like I said, it's 45 to 90 minutes depending on mission and player count. And the box says 60 to 90, and like I've told Lance, any other game that has a mini campaign or anything like that, it's the same way. Bloodborne says 60 to 90 minutes. If I play a game of Bloodborne or a mini campaign, which is 3 chapters, each chapter is going to be about 45 to 90 minutes depending on how people spawn and how things go. So people might not like the marketing on it. If you look at the website and everything, it tells you exactly that. If you play one mission, it's about 60 to 90 minutes. So whether you interpret it on the front of a box a certain way, again, other games market the same way, so I don't think that's a true negative. Because if you're researching a game before you buy it, it says it on the website, it says it in a rule book. I mean, any other game is kind of like that. So I don't really count that as a true negative, but I know it can come up when people talk about it. For me, the game's an 8. It's not my favorite type of game as far as these, but I really do like it. And again, the IP there makes it strong for me. Understanding that these machines are programmed to attack in a certain way, and it really feels like that.
Yeah.
It gets really tight at times, and if you ever play the game, there's times where you go after one, you take one out, and next thing you know, these other ones, because they were alerted, come at you, and maybe you didn't think it would be as tough as it was going to be at times. So
Right.
You do have expansions where if you want to face more warriors and stuff, they have other expansions which have people. The man, I can't think of the name off the top of my head. I want to say it's the Badlands expansion, but you have the different warrior soldiers from the other the camps, the bandits. You have the bandits that you can face. You have expansions with smaller monsters and more people with more tiles. I think. And additional cards. You have big monster bosses. You can play in different ways. So just because you buy the game and it says play this way, you can adapt it like we do and do a boss mode where you get to really experience that upgraded character that you've put all this time and effort in and you want to use it. Or just play a medium-sized bad guy. I mean, there's just so many different variations you can play with this. You can play co-op, you can play semi-co-op, and the co-op experience is not bad at all. Yeah. I love co-op games. For us, sometimes it gets pretty heated. Lance and I may argue about different things, or other people may argue, but guess what? Co-op usually comes together. So if semi-co-op doesn't work for you, the co-op experience is not like it's not a lesser game. It's just a co-op experience is not lesser. The semi-co-op just shines because
it's so
that's
unique.
what it was originally probably designed around, and it's different than a lot of semi-co-op games that you have. But if you want that cooperative feel like a Bloodborne or a Dark Souls or anything, you can get it here.
Yeah.
Or Zombicide, you can get it here.
Versatile. It gives you a lot of different experiences. I think that's one thing I'm hoping that you are picking up on this video here, that you have differing experiences depending on what you're playing with and up against and the characters you're playing. You have to have different strategies depending on who you're going up against. And where you're at on the map and where the machines are at on the map, that's also going to influence how you go about doing things. So you got a lot of replayability with this game, and
especially if you get more than a base game, you're going to have quite a bit.
Yeah.
So
there you have it, guys. I think we gave you the full rundown here of Horizon Zero Dawn, the board game. Really cool game, and I would highly recommend going out there, trying it out, and I think you're gonna like what you try, and you probably will invest in this game a little bit and get some of the expansions on it.
Or watch videos, like Lance said. Lance wasn't tied to the IP at all. Wasn't familiar with it not even on his radar. He played it. He played it a few times with us. Even though his character wasn't maybe the strongest because of those cards, he still really enjoyed it.
I did, yeah.
And I would say, take our review with a grain of salt. If it sounds good, if you want to know more, there's plenty of videos on it.
Even if you don't like the game,
you just want to paint miniatures.
Still get some really stinking cool miniatures.
If you just want to paint them.
And I don't know that you can say that this is a miniature, but
it's a bigature.
A bigature, yeah. So there you have it. That's our thoughts on Horizon Zero Dawn, the board game. Please leave us some comments down below. Let us know what you think about this and what you think about this video. And consider subscribing to the channel, liking this video, and we'll make you aware of all of our other new great videos on the horizon. See what I did there?
I should just do outros from the intros and outros. It's my job after today.
I'm Lance.
I'm Jeremy.
And we are Hard to Master, where we take a look at games that are
hard to master.
We'll see you next time.
We nailed it that time.
Yeah.
See ya.